So what does spending trends look like at Christmas this year? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon and welcome to the Prudent Money Radio Show. I'm your host, Bob Brooks. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, this Christmas buying season is probably one of the more difficult shopping seasons to forecast for retailers today. I'll be talking with Margaret Poe. She is the head of consumer credit education at TransUnion and is here today to give us a look into what Christmas spending trends might be for you. Margaret, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Let's start off with the inflation issues that we've got today and the effect on consumer prices. We are definitely experiencing the effects of inflation on consumer prices to some degree. It just depends kind of what part of the economy we're looking at. But what are you seeing as the effect of inflation on Christmas spending this year?
Yeah, and actually inflation is the top concern that we found in our most recent Consumer Pulse study. Actually, it just came out this week. So consumers are concerned about inflation. They're really ranking at the top of their list of their concerns. At the same time, the Americans that we talked to said that they're still planning to go out there and shop, maybe even more than last year. So it's kind of an interesting mixed bag, if you have it, just because people know that they're concerned about inflation and prices, but they're really planning to go out there and spend this holiday season. In fact, actually, the focus for a lot of Americans this season will be that period right between Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday. That they said that that's when they're really going to be hitting the stores, whether it's in person or online.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've studied quite a few of these trends and surveys, and the conclusion that I come to, tell me if you think this is right or wrong, is that it's important to get the Christmas shopping done as early as, like you're talking about, as early as possible because prices might be higher on the back end.
Yeah, I think that's really smart, and it also allows you to kind of get out there, see what deals are available, which of course can help the bottom line for your budget. And then maybe even if you can, take a pause, see where you're kind of stacking up in terms of your overall spending. Because the holidays, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It starts at Thanksgiving and goes all the way through the New Year. And it feels like the expenses just, pile up.
Yes.
So when you're thinking about your overall finances and your credit, if you can, do some spending, take a break, check on your bank account, and then also your credit, get a sense of where you're at. Maybe then you can find ways to pull back if you can before you're all the way into the new year and taking a second to look and you realize maybe it's a little bit too late to pull back.
Yeah, very, very critical to make sure that you know what you're dealing with. I know that TransUnion has put a lot of emphasis on consumers taking control of their credit and finances. I've always thought that, as you close the chapter on one year and you open up to another year, it's a great time to look at new habits and do things differently. The things that didn't work, stop doing them and make other choices. What are some of the tips that you can give our listeners when it comes to, taking control of their credit and finances as we look forward to 2026?
Yeah, I think that's so true, and especially if you get a slight jump start on it into November, December, before January when everybody else is doing it. If you can try to start building in these healthy habits just a little bit here and there now, you're really going to be grateful for what you did come January. So the first thing that we really like to recommend is that you get a hold of your credit reports. You can get all three of your credit reports from TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax from annualcreditreport.com. And it's important to be looking at them just to make sure that everything on those reports is accurate. If you see something suspicious, it could be a sign of fraud. And if that's the case, you want to be taking action right away. So checking your reports is really critical. Recommend you do that at least once a year, maybe a couple times a year, just to keep tabs on it. And then hand in hand with the report is the score. The score, of course, is based on the information in your report. It goes through an algorithm, and it comes up with a number that gives you your credit score. So your credit score gives you a really quick snapshot of where you stand. The report then has all the details about all of your payment history.
One of the concerns that I do have with credit cards, and we're seeing it become more and more of a problem, and I'm sure you guys are definitely seeing it, is the extremely high interest rates. Do you think that consumers really have a handle on how much they're paying in interest? Because it's unbelievable. How it's gotten so out of control, and you've got kids in the house. You want to provide a great Christmas. You're paying off debt this year from last year. You know the story. How do people make it all work?
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think sometimes people have it in their mind like, okay, it's credit card interest, it's high, I don't even need to think about it. But we really try to stress that it is important to take a minute to understand what you're paying. Of course, the best thing that you can do, if it's at all possible, is pay your balance in full each month. If you do that, you pay zero interest. So then you're just getting the benefits of a credit card, the fraud protection, maybe those points or miles, all those kind of perks, but you're not paying for it in interest. If you do have to carry a balance, then you're paying interest on it, and it can add up really quickly. So it's important to know what that interest rate is, and then maybe consider what some of your options are. You may consider consolidating that debt onto a new credit card or take out a loan. There are different options that you can take to really bring down that interest rate. And actually, we have a new product at TransUnion. It's called TransUnion Credit Essentials. And in addition to your report and score, it also offers you personalized offers. So if you're, say, in the market for a new card, like a balance transfer card, to try to bring down that interest rate, you might be able to find a good option for you there, and one that is likely that you'd be approved for, too.
Let me ask you this. I'm sure that I saw this. Y'all have a new credit monitoring tool as well, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. That's Credit Essentials.
That's Credit Essentials. Okay, great. Yeah, that's one of the things that I find interesting, and I'm sure that y'all see this, is that, back, say, 2019, 2018, if there was a big identity theft hack and, 100,000 files were compromised, it would be all over the front page of the paper. Everybody would be reading, would know of that story. And now it's lucky if it gets the back page of the paper. And people just kind of act, it's not going to happen to me, or if it does, I'll just deal with it. Not taking what I think is a serious problem, and just kind of being, we'll deal with it if it happens. What are y'all seeing, and what are y'all recommending from the standpoint of protecting yourselves?
Yeah, I think that's so right. Like every year there are these stories in the news about the big breaches, but anything smaller than that doesn't even really make the front page, like you're saying, because it is pretty common, unfortunately. The good thing is there are steps you can take that are completely free that can help protect you against these, breaches that seem to be occurring all the time. And one thing that we do recommend is a credit freeze.
Yes.
So you can freeze your credit with all three bureaus. With TransUnion, you just go to transunion.com/credit freeze. You'll find the steps there to create an account and put a freeze on your credit. And what it does is it blocks anybody from taking out a new account in your name. So that way you don't even get to the situation where the fraudulent account is created and you have to remove it. It prevents it from happening in the first place. So that's really a really strong step you can take. It's free. It's pretty easy. If you end up needing to take out credit in the future, you can simply unfreeze it for a short amount of time and then refreeze it. Another step you can take is a fraud alert if you think you've been a victim of fraud, and that puts a flag on your credit file and asks lenders to take extra steps to confirm that you are the person looking to take out credit. So if you have any concerns, and honestly, everybody should be aware of these data breaches and things going on, really smart to consider a freeze or a fraud alert.
Yeah, I would, it's kind of one of those things where it's really not that difficult in some aspects. I've always thought of credit monitoring as the first line of defense. And with a credit freeze, you're locking it up, you're putting a lock on it and taking the key out, and nobody can get in there but you can. And of course, there's some types of identity theft that are a little bit more advanced, but Don't you think, though, that credit monitoring, credit freeze, that knocks out, 95% or so of issues that could come up?
Yeah, it gives you a really firm foundation. If you
Yes.
have a freeze with all three bureaus and then you're also monitoring your credit, you know what's going on and you're really giving yourself a strong protection. The other great benefit of our product, Credit Essentials, our free product, is that you'll get alerts to any critical changes on your report. So say someone was able to take out an account on your report, you'll get a notification right away, and you'll be able to see that and then take action if needed. Or if there's an inquiry on your report, a hard inquiry from someone trying to take out credit. If it's anyone other than you, that's a red flag, and then you can take action to resolve it.
Great information, Margaret. Listen, I love what you guys are doing at TransUnion, and thanks for coming on the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Once again, Margaret is part of, or she's head of, consumer credit education at TransUnion. And TransUnion, just to make sure you have a good feel for who they are, TransUnion is one of the three big credit reporting agencies that holds a credit file on you, that has all the information about your spending and how good you've been with credit, and has the almighty credit score. And the three are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So what's nice about them is that they have a finger on the pulse of what's happening. I mean, everything runs through them. Runs through them or one of the other two of the three big three credit reporting agencies. So a lot of great information. Hey, this is Bob Brooks. We are up against a break. Stick around, and I'll be right back. Hello, this is Bob Brooks. Proverbs 22:3 and Proverbs 27:12 are the exact same verse word for word. I call them the stewardship verses of risk. A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. On the Prudent Money Radio Show, we teach about risk, how to identify it, how to figure it out, and what to do about it. We believe that to be a prudent steward, you have to be a good risk manager. Listen to the Prudent Money Radio Show on Bible School Radio 91.3. Prudent Money, home of the modern-day steward movement.
Dynamic, practical, life-changing.
There's no point in going to church and not letting the Christ who gave birth to the church on the day of Pentecost change your life.
Join us each day as Pastor Paul Shepherd applies the timeless truth of Scripture to everyday life. It's Destined for Victory on this great station.
Weekday afternoons at 3:30 here on Bible School Radio, KDKR.
This is Rob Randall, your host and teacher of the Invisible War radio program. The Invisible War is the study of God's Word on how to walk in Christ's victory in the spiritual battles we face against the powers of darkness. Join me every Sunday morning at 9 right here on KDKR and KYJC in Commerce, your station for life.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. If you got a question for me, just please go to prudentmoney.com, and there's a link at the top of the front page, and it will tell you to click through. It says Ask Prudent Money, and you can send in your questions. We'll get you squared away, and I love to get those questions from you. And however we can help you, we definitely want to help you. That's all at the website, prudentmoney.com. And, I was talking about that story, and it's just so true, is that there's just this notion, well, there's a couple of notions. There's notion that either it's probably, identity theft is probably not going to happen to me. I got to tell you that just by the sheer number of consumer files that have been breached, and what that means is a thief hacks into a big database system, and your information is in a consumer file, and if it's breached, that means it was broken into and taken, or compromised. Breached and compromised means that some of the information is missing. if you look at and you add up all the times this has happened in the past, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, we only have in this. I'm pretty sure this includes little children too. We have 327 million per the last census, and 327 million 327 million people on this in the United States. And if you add up all of the consumer files that have been breached, it far exceeds that. My point being is that it's safe to assume your information, either a little bit or a lot, is out on the dark web. Not trying to freak anybody out, just looking at the numbers. It's very, very black and white numbers, they add up. So especially at this time of year when we're not paying attention as much as we should. And it's a situation where we've got a lot on our minds, got a lot on our plates. Let's face it, Thanksgiving around the corner. In fact, a week from today, which is just blows my mind. And we're rushing to get things done. So you're cranking up the holiday season right now. Probably you'll start this next weekend, where you'll go out and make the grocery run for Thanksgiving. Everything you need to buy. You'll deal with the concerns and anxieties of inflation, and then at some point between that first Sunday before Thanksgiving and the next weekend, you'll put up your tree. You'll put up the ornaments. It's something you're probably either looking forward to it because you really love that time of year, or you really love that time of the year, but you wish somebody else could come decorate for you. But you're busy, and you're thinking of the entire time, I've got Christmas presents to purchase. I've got things to do. And then that's just in addition to my life. And someone slips in an email, and it says, it's some type of an email that alarms you. You're not really thinking completely clear, and you click that link, and then all of a sudden, little do you know that somebody's taking over your computer and they're taking data from you. And because you weren't thinking. And I think that Margaret said it perfectly. It really does come down to laying a foundation to preventing identity theft. And it comes down to the credit freeze and credit monitoring. Now, I know that there are plenty of companies out there that claim that if you sign up with their business, that they're going to prevent and stop this from happening, for the most part, and that they will be able to separate one Joe Smith from another Joe Smith. And if you go back and you do some research on these companies that make these big claims, you'll find that they've been sued. They had the miracle system on one end. They get shut down by one of the regulators. They come back with this new and improved system, and you can just see I think the way they ran the one that I'm thinking of. There's a lot of comes across a lot of dishonesty and misrepresentation, and of course that's the judge agreed to that. And I don't think it's worth spending all the extra money on that. I think it comes down to credit monitoring and credit freeze. Because as Margaret was saying, with the credit monitoring, it works out great because someone accesses your credit report trying to open up a credit file and to fill out a credit application to get it approved, and then they take your information. And if you don't have credit monitoring, you don't know. But the beautiful thing about that is, with credit monitoring, it alerts you immediately and says, "Hey, someone is trying to take out credit in your name. And so you have the ability to jump in and be proactive and shut it down. Whereas if you're not paying attention, and there's just all types of, they've got to go, the majority of cases of identity theft, they've got to go through your credit report. So if that's your first line of defense and you have your alert system and you're paying attention to it, and that's the other thing, we've got to make sure that we are paying attention and that we do take this seriously. I do think that there is some apathy when it comes down to making sure that everything stays okay with your credit report. A lot of apathy. You just don't want that to become a real big issue anytime, but especially at Christmas. There's what I call the golden rule of identity theft. If you're ever approached in any way and asked for information, don't give it to them. And that being approached could be you get an email, you get a phone call, and I don't know about you. I mean, I get tons of phone calls, people wanting to lend me money, tons of phone calls. And you get bombarded by requests for money, requests for information or to verify information. Just if you get approached, just absolutely say no. If you feel strongly about needing to know more, call the original company. Say it was Visa off your Best Buy card or something like that, and verify that it was true or not true, and that way you can shut things down. I've heard some pretty horrifying stories about people that have gone through credit identity theft, and it's a pretty serious thing. The one, I'll close with this. There's about a guy, lived in Oklahoma. He was going to his friend's wedding, and he was supposed to meet up with his buddies. They're all getting their tux fitted and make sure everything's okay. So they meet at the tux shop or tux store, whatever you call it these days, and they put the tux on, everything's great, and then he goes to pay for it, and the guy says, "Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, your card has been denied." And he goes, "There's no way. I've been, with American Express, we'll call it, for 30 years, and I've never had a problem with American Express." Well, they said they denied it, and in fact, they are canceling your card. And so he calls American Express, and he finds out that there's somebody who's living in a life, a double life of his. He found out that he had mortgages in his name, that the guy was a big spender, had all kinds of expensive jewelry, even bought a car, and he had no idea that any of this was going on. And such a serious situation took years to unwind. The thing about being an identity theft victim is that you are a victim, but at the same time, you're a guilty victim. Yeah, I guess I was trying to think what I called it. A guilty victim, where you're a victim, but you have to prove your innocence, and that's kind of a tough situation, because how do they know that you didn't go into Best Buy, let's say, and buy a brand new TV to hang on your wall, and you called and said, "Hey, there's a charge on here that shouldn't be on here," and they say, "Well, they clear it up, and you go home and enjoy your TV, and you never paid for it." How do they know that's what's going on? So that's why it's so very, very important to make sure that you shut this down and make sure that it does not become a problem. And even the smallest of identity theft issues can spiral out of control and become a huge, huge problem. So that's one thing I want you to put on your list. We'll talk about it more when we have time. But that's definitely one thing I want you to put on your list as far as building a foundation to make sure that your information is all safe as can be. Hey, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Until we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.